All right, third time's a charm. We're gonna try not to get the GoPro battery dead. I charged it. It's full charged. We're gonna make it. Here we go again in the Ranger. It's idling normally now. You'll see it. We got mulch in the back. It's gonna be going over to the food bank, load up a pallet of eggs and vegetables, bring it to the food pantry. Dear God, be with me. We're at church. I'm praying to you, Jesus. All right. There we go. You can see 1500 RPM.
You are listening to WNGA 90.3 FM. We appreciate your
All right. Let's go. Yeah, we've done a few mulch runs. No issues. This idle control valve seems to be performing well now. No overdrive issues, as you can see on the dash. Oh, we don't want that. Shout out to 90.3 FM. I don't know anything about them. I just know if you're in North Georgia, around the Lautiga area, listen to 90.3. It's an experience. The Red Oak Transportation people. All right, yeah, it only will take me 25 minutes. I'm supposed to be there at 10:30. Hopefully the camera won't turn out. That is a hell of a nice single wide. You should have seen what it looked like before. They completely renovated that trailer. Let's eat it. Oh yeah, she's shifting normally now. Speed limit. Dang, this thing's fast. You know, I've driven fast cars before. This thing compares to them. You know, I drove, what was the last fast car I drove? A G01 X3 M40i. This thing compared to it, I mean, it's a couple seconds, like twice as slow, but they are both vehicles that accelerate. I grew up going to church here on the left, and it's interesting. I would, it's right next to a cow farm, and I would always associate the smell of cow manure with church. And where we go to church now, it's not next to a cow farm. And it's weird that I show up to church on Sunday and it doesn't smell like that. Very strange. Oh, hell yeah. This thing, this thing handles like a dream. Once we get down this road a little bit, there's this corner I like to take relatively fast. Relative in this car is probably a lot slower than most other cars. but I'm convinced I will be able to make the left and right hand turn that make up that corner. I've always loved these. There's you see those, I think they're 3rd gen CRVs, and they're both in that light blue color. And there's another one that stays there, and that's an old gas station, but I think they live there. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, so we're going to the south end of the county. This is the north end of the county. Two polar opposite worlds. Oh, we got some Porsches going on there. Little 911 thing going on. All right, Mr. Ridgeline, we need to move over and let the real trucks do their thing. I should say that I actually like the Honda Ridgelines a good bit. The other truck that's been helping us move these pallets, it's also a Ridgeline, and you know, I feel like 99% of truck people don't do stuff like this. Like, we use this truck for truck stuff. The amount of times we've loaded this thing up to the top of the bed with mulch like this, the rear axle's like dragging along when we have this thing loading up. And it probably will be when we get the pallet. I'll take a picture and put it down there. I don't want to record anyone at the food bank or food pantry. I don't want to get y'all involved with that, but it drags a good bit when we get this thing loaded, but you know, that's fine. The distance is only about probably 3 or 4 miles. Yeah, the one thing about this, I'm 6'5". It's very claustrophobic in here, and I like the top of the Speedo is cut out by the wheel, so you know, in between 40 and 100 miles an hour, I don't know what speed I'm going. And let's be honest, this thing can't get over past 80 miles per hour. I do love these little things. I like small vehicles. I get a lot of heat from it. But I like to feel a little claustrophobic when I'm driving vehicles. And oh gosh, when I, like, for example, when I was in high school, everyone had the big trucks and all this stuff, and I just drove a little E46 BMW, and I was still 6'5". I think I was 6'5". I don't remember. I don't keep up with that, but I was still tall in high school. And people are like, that car is way too small for you. I'm like, no, this thing feels great. And this is probably the only way that this Ranger compares to that E46. Well, they're both rear-wheel drive based. It's interesting. I was actually an XI model, so it was all-wheel drive. This is a rear-wheel drive, you know, fleet model essentially. But other than that, they both are very claustrophobic feeling on the inside for me. Obviously, for most people, you're not going to have that issue. And I will say, that is one of the... People always look up, like, say, oh, you're tall, you're so lucky, all that stuff. It's really not that great. First of all, I'm not single. I've been married happily for 5 years or so. But, like, people are like, oh, the women want tall guys. I don't know if it was just because I was awkward or I was a douchebag or what, but I didn't have luck getting women. up until I found someone, you know, that was crazy enough to put up with me for the long term. So shout out to my wife for that. But on top of that, I feel like that's overrated. It's so difficult, like going to sporting events or whatever. Like, for example, I was at Fenway Park not too long ago, and those seats, like, I was cramped in that stadium, like crouched over. That was not designed for someone as tall as me. And Wrigley Field's the same way. I've been there. It's been longer since I've been there, but I have been there. And then, of course, you got vehicles. It's tough to be in vehicles and all this stuff. Like, you know, I have kids now, and I am looking at getting a new vehicle in the future. Not necessarily to replace anything, but to add it to, you know, to go on road trips and whatnot. But, like, I would love to get like something a little bit smaller, but by the time I adjust my front seats for a kid in the back, they ain't got much room, so I'm having to look at freaking land yachts. And luckily, you know, a lot of these modern crossover SUVs, I'm kind of zeroing in on the Acura MDX right now, and it at least drives like a car, and it's not too big, and I have enough room. But you know, I would love something smaller, but it's just not doable. Like, my wife drives a 22 CRV. Love that car. It's great. Our family of 4 can barely fit in that for like a 3-day vacation. And like I said, I hate big vehicles. Like, a vehicle of the size of like an MDX or something, about as big as I'm willing to go. I drove an F-150 for about 2 or 3 years, and that was just not for me. Now, I had a 93 F-150. Oh, I love that damn thing. 5-speed, 5.0. That thing was awesome, but I wasn't driving that thing every day. This is, you know, the truck that replaced that, just because we weren't using all the capability of it. And plus, when we bought these Rangers, you could, you know, buy these things for next to nothing. But dang, that 5.0 did sound good. I will say, that 5.0, you know, that was back when Ford was, it was back, no, I don't want to just single out Ford. It was back when American manufacturers were shoving the biggest possible V8s, you know, to put out like 190 horsepower or something like that. And then when I daily drove an F-150, it was a one with a 5.0 Coyote. I mean, the engine, that is one of the best sounding modern engines that you're going to find. That I will die on that hill. But it just, after the warranty expired, which it didn't have much left on it, it was just problem after problem on that. So I ended up selling that. And my wife loved this. I got a 2001 Lexus GS 300. Loved that car to death, but it got totaled. So I had to, obviously had to find another car. But that GS 300, those are, I wish I could find another one. Those are fantastic vehicles. Smooth, rear wheel drive. Soft, but you could still have fun with it. And it wasn't like, which this is one thing I don't really get. There comes a point at a power level, and maybe this is just me getting old, because I am slowly turning into, you know, Mr. Boomer over here. But there comes a point where you don't, once you get over like 300 horsepower or something, like you're just getting into excess power at that point. Unless it's a truck, you know, that 5.0 F-150, you kind of I don't want to say you need that kind of power, but it definitely helps you on the interstate and obviously with towing and all that stuff. But for sedans and like SUV, smaller SUVs, you really don't need, you know, 350, 400 horsepower. I say that as I drive. I think the factory new on this thing was like 130 horsepower. It definitely feels lethargic at times. You'll see once we try to get up to speed on the interstate. Giant speed trap up here. I swear I've never gotten a speeding ticket, and if I do it in this that is just my luck, but I'll ride down to 35. Let's go. These are some of the most interesting lake homes right here. You'll see kind of the part of the lake they're on. I don't know if you call it a lake or a mud pit. Oh yeah, this is a rough road and I'm feeling it every bump. Here's that curve I was telling you all about. But before that, I want to show you beautiful Lake Lanier. It's beautiful. All right, let's see if we can. Got a little bit of wheel spin. It's pretty difficult with the lack of power on this thing to get any type of wheel spin, but got a little bit there. Okay, we're finally at the speed limit for this road. Where the DOT does some weird stuff over here. Like, they just made a new road right there and just left the old road. What do you do? I will say one of the things I miss about modern vehicles, or in modern vehicles, I guess, you do not have the character in the powertrains that you do in these old POSs from, you know, 20 years ago. This thing, you beat the living shit out of this thing, and it just is. You're not going fast, but it's so fun. And that's the one thing after driving. And here I am going, comparing a new BMW to a 20-year-old Ranger, but here I go, new to, well, newish. But when you get behind the wheel of a new BMW, it just feels so like, don't get me wrong, they are fast as all get out, and they're great vehicles and whatnot. But in older BMWs, like the E46, E60, all that stuff, you felt like, so cliche, you felt like you were part of the vehicle, like you could feel the soul. And I know some, well, it's turbocharged, all that stuff, but even the E90 and E60, like turbocharged inline six, I want to say it was at the N55, I mean, they weren't reliable, but they had character. And actually, they, you know, when you get them to the modern, oh gosh, B58 drivetrains, fantastic drivetrains. You know, and you can tell on some of the M Performance or whatever they call them cars, like the M340, X3 M40, all that stuff. Like, they try to add just a little bit of character, and the engine's great and you feel it, but the chassis just feels so like smug almost. Like, it's like, yeah, I can do this. Whereas here, you drive this thing around, you know, just even on this ramp, you feel like you're holding on to dear life. And I love that. I want to feel like I'm, you know, I'm battling death. Speaking of which, that's about what we're going to do going on this interstate. Okay, are we going to... Okay, we're up at the speed limit. I'm just gonna stick it here. I don't think I have the power to... We're only gonna be on here for about 2 exits or so I don't want to pass, I think it's 5 vehicles in front of us. Those older Lexus, however you say it. And I'm sure the new ones are great. I haven't driven the newest Lexus I've driven was a 2012 CT200H, and that's, you know, I don't think that's representative as a whole as Lexus's brand identity philosophy on how they manufacture cars. Even though I guess they do prioritize efficiency and whatnot. Actually, yeah, that kind of does. I feel like that was the first vehicle where they did start going big into hybridization and whatnot. But I'd love a newer Lexus. I don't really buy new cars. It's just not my thing. But even like I'm looking at a 23 MDX. Looking at a comparable, I want to say the 3-row SUV for Lexus's TX, started manufacturing them in 24. I mean, even those are like significantly higher than the MDX. And I understand, you know, Acura's, Hondas, they're extremely reliable, but Lexus, Toyota on a whole nother level. Like, I understand that, but there's like a $15,000 price delta for a similarly equipped model. And, you know, I generally like Honda engines, apart from the 2JZ, obviously, that was in that GS300, but the J35 is an excellent engine. I like how smooth it is, but also it has that, you know, VTEC E. I mean, I guess it is technically VTEC, but it's a heavy SUV. You can't really experience it like an older SI or something, but they are fun vehicles for what they are. And I feel like Lexus kind of, they take the approach of, I don't even want to say they're capable. I know they have their F-Sport handling and whatnot, but they definitely are more relaxed, more oriented on the family aspect. And, you know, I get that, and I do think they're excellent vehicles, especially if you're a, you know, if you can afford it, go get one. If you can afford it, you don't really care too much, you think of driving more as a chore, get a Lexus. You will not be disappointed. My family has had exceptional luck with Lexus. I'm not even gonna try to make this. All right. And the battery's still on. Good Lord, we're doing good today. Fun fact, this food bank is right next to ZF factory where they produce different parts. I don't want to share too much, but I did do an internship there in college, and that was, you think of ZF gearboxes, you know, the 8 HP and all the new BMWs and all that stuff, but that company does so much more, like obviously for cars, but also literally almost any machine you can think of. And it was a cool company to intern for, and really to collaborate with people from across the world. Still to this day, you know, I'm 10 years, no, not 10 years, 9 years removed from when I graduated college. And I still put on my resume when I'm applying for like project management positions that I was involved in a project with a team from the Netherlands and Brazil. And, you know, I had to use Google Translate quite a bit for that. That was a fun project. My wife does love those, these things in front of us, those Kona ice, or I'm assuming that's similar to that, but I think her dad didn't let her get those when she would go to her brother's like baseball and football games and like pee-wee and all that stuff. So now it's like, well, I'm grown now, I'm gonna get it. And now that we have kids, we're like, no, you can't have it. And then, you know, once we go to bed, we, you know, DoorDash it or something like that. Not necessarily snow ice or whatnot, but the kids, there's some double standards going on. We don't want them to be, you know, my wife's not as big as I am. I'm not saying I'm fat, but I do like, eating's one of the pleasures of my life. So there is a little bit of a double standard there, but oh well. All right, well, this battery didn't die. Thank God. Well, I didn't think I'd ever go through with this, but y'all take care.